Did you know there's a verse in the Bible that says that if you don't work, you don't deserve to eat? You know, the Bible talks down on laziness in general, and Christians talks it talks pretty poorly on the lazy Christians out there. Don't take my word on it. Here in the Bible, 2 Thessalonians, um, we're going to read chapter 3, 6 and 11. It says, "Now we command you, brothers, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that you keep away from any brother who is walking in idleness." So, Christian, you should stay away from those who are not doing their fair share, who are not working, all right, and not in accord with the traditions that you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us, because we were not idle when we were with you. So they were preaching the word, right? But they were still working, right? So it says, because we were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's bread without paying for it. But with toil and labor we worked night and day, that we might not be a burden to any of you. It was not because we do not have that right, but to give you in ourselves as an example to imitate. So you're not to be a burden to anybody. You're supposed to work for your wages. You're supposed to preach the word, but at the same time, you're supposed to work. You're supposed to work for your food, right? And that's what they were living as an example, right? For even when we were with you, we would give you this command: if anyone is not willing to work, let them not eat. For we hear that some among you walk in idleness, not busy at work, but busybodies. You know, it's amazing. This book, I got this ESV, this student study Bible. I tell you what, it'll take me 3 days to get through one page, just because it goes over and it pulls different verses together, and you can go back to the Old Testament and it talks about where it is. This is a really good book to get. I tell you what, I love the NLT just because it's to my level, but this study Bible is amazing because it just goes back and forth. So when you're reading this, it refers back to First Thessalonians chapter 5, 12 and 14. It goes, "We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves, and we urge you, brothers, admonish the idle." So, brothers, it is you are supposed to warn. You're supposed to reprimand the people, the brothers within the church who aren't pulling their weight, who aren't actually working, who are being a burden to other people. So, Paul is saying basically that if you are not lazy people who do not do their part in society, are a burden to the community, are a burden to the church. All right. So it even goes as far as saying what is it? You know, you hear people go over and say, like, you know, I've heard people say that they're trusting in the Lord to provide for their needs, and He will, okay, but he will provide for your needs. But God put us here to work. You don't believe me? Go to Genesis chapter 2. It says that the title of chapter 2 is creation of man and woman. It basically says in 2:5, it says that there was no one to work there was no man to work the ground, right? To work the earth. All right. So in 2:15 it says God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and keep it. Okay. Now keep in mind, this is before sin entered the world. All right. Part of God's plan is for man to be a productive part of society, is to work. All right. So even God, when he gave the promised land to Abraham, right, and now it's known as Israel, it was expected that they work the land. So God doesn't exist to serve you. We exist to serve God. So there's this common story out there about a guy who is stranded at sea, and he's treading water, and he says, God, save me, God, save me. So, a couple minutes goes by and a rowboat comes down and a guy says, here, grab my hand, reach for my hand. And he goes, no, God's going to save me. And then, so he goes about his way. And then a little while later, a sailboat comes over and they toss him a life ring and it hits him. And they says, just hold on. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. Then next thing you know, like a cruise line or something comes down and drops down to Jacob's ladder and it says, climb up. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. But then when he he dies, ultimately he drowns. He goes, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, dude, I sent you a rowboat. All you had to do was reach for the guy's hand. He says, I sent you a sailboat. All you had to do was just hold on. I sent you a cruise liner and you just had to climb. You got to put in the work. All right. So there's a saying out there that, God helps those who help themselves, right? That is not it's not in the Bible, but it's basically referenced in a couple of different spots. All right. Did you know that if you're a Christian, it is expected of you to be the hardest working person in your business, at your job? It is expected it's expected that you show up on time, that you do the job that you're being paid to do, and you excel at it. Okay, and you strive to be the best that you can. All right. So Colossians 3:23 through 24 says, "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men." So you're supposed to work for the Lord. You're supposed to work as if you're working for the Lord. All right. Knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. So, yes, you're working for your job, but you are supposed to do your best. So, and this leads to a lot of different things. So, people see you and people will come to you. All right. You're supposed to be the hardest worker at your job. All right. There's also a couple other sayings out there that are, reap what you sow. All right. It's mentioned a couple different times in the Bible, and it's for different, and each time it's reap what you sow. It's meant for a couple different things. Like one was being like, it's a spiritual sense, and the other one being like, it's like a giving sense. Okay. So, but both of them is basically means that what you put in, you'll get out. All right. So for an example, Proverbs 20 verse 4 says, the sluggard does not plow in the autumn, will seek his and have nothing. So basically saying that when you plow in, if you don't plow in the winter, don't expect to have anything in the summer. All right. So if you don't do the work, don't expect to eat. All right. That's what I got for you today. There should be no lazy Christians. All right. You should work. You should do your best. You should work as if you're working for the Lord with everything that you do. All right. So you're to be the best. All right. Hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think. Bye.